Good afternoon. Welcome to the Think for Yourself Clubhouse. This is a podcast in which we try to get into some of the evidence of some of the local goings on. Today we're going to talk about libraries. First, I do have a message. Last time we did Jackson City Schools with, among other folks, Teresa McGinnis, the treasurer. She called me and she had a correction she wanted to make sure that we got. The cost of a school bus is $130,000. She had a higher figure, but the $130,000 is still a lot of money for a school bus. So with that factual correction, we'll move on to libraries. We have with us Roger Donaldson, the city librarian, April Eifler, steadfast number 2 at the library. Dennis, you're going to, I think, give us some quotes to put us in the mood of what a library is like and what it does and how important it is.
Yes. This is by Doug Wilhelm, who's an author of young adult literature and children's literature. A library is a house of hope. It's a place where we all, whatever our situation, can feed our ideas and develop our dreams. The second one, by an author by the name of Mary McNear. And it says, public libraries are the heart and soul of the community. They are a place to read and think, browse and dream.
Thank you, Dennis. Roger, I'll ask you a few personal questions and then April, same questions. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Gallipolis, Ohio, since there's not a hospital, or there wasn't at the time in Jackson. But I've been in Jackson my whole life.
You're a Jackson boy.
Yep.
Okay. Where'd you go to school?
South Street School was my elementary school, which unfortunately isn't there anymore because it was a really, really nice place. Well, I mean, all things considered. But then the middle school, which was Lick at the time, and then my high school was the old high school on Bond Street.
Did you have me in school?
Mm-hmm. Yep, 8th grade, 8th grade civics.
Okay, good.
I've
had about everybody.
You made me memorize the 88 counties in Ohio.
Well, there you go.
So I think I got maybe about 70% of them
high
right.
School, Roger?
Yep,
What year did you graduate from high school?
1998.
Okay, good old class of 98. And what's your experience in the library biz?
Came to it kind of late, really. Did some other things, some restaurant management and that sort of stuff. Worked at the local refinery for precious metals here, and it kind of fizzled out. So I was looking for something to do. So I went back to college and went to Shawnee in Portsmouth, Shawnee State University, and there was a library job open at the Portsmouth Public Library. So I was able to get a job there, and then eventually there was an opening here in Jackson, and Laura called and stole me. So it wasn't that hard.
Are there specific courses training for librarians?
At the master's level, but as far as undergraduate, no, not really. Any kind of background is necessary to get your master's degree, but mine is in history.
I see. You're a history major.
Yep.
All right. So was I. Good. And I'd like to ask the hobbies question.
I like to do outdoors things, hike, kayak, that sort of thing. Also do some woodworking, and I just kind of like to piddle around and make things generally in my spare time.
Great, great. April,
Yes, sir.
where were you born and grew up?
I was born in Marietta, Ohio. Grew up in Barlow, Ohio, because, like Roger said, there's still to this day not a hospital in Barlow because it's just a small little town. But had family here, always had family here. My grandparents, my mom was from here. So caregiving for my grandparents brought me here. And then stuck around after that role was complete.
Okay, so you were a Southern Ohio person as well?
Mm-hmm.
Great. And do you have any school background?
Yeah, Barlow Vincent Elementary and Barlow, and then Warren High School, class of 2009.
Okay. You have any college experience?
No, life was close to it, but life had different plans with my grandpa getting ill.
I see.
So, yeah, went to caregiving instead.
So you were kind of hands-on early.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's your experience in libraries? Just with this Jackson Library, or?
Yeah, well, I had the teen advisory board program at the Barlow Branch Library, where I'm from. Did activities with that programs, volunteered. But then when I moved here, was on the hunt for a job, and my uncle at the time had worked at the library, and he's told me of an opening. So I talked to Laura and went through the procedure and got in. That was 2013. So.
Okay. Now, as far as hobbies go, I can testify that you're active in civic organizations in town.
I
You,
am.
you and I both serve on
Yeah.
the Senior Citizens Board together.
Yep.
And you're quite active with lots of good ideas
Mm-hmm.
on that board.
We're also in Rotary together, Roger as well. I'm on the homelessness committee.
I guess we're all
Jackson
three, yeah.
County.
Homeless
Yeah.
committee, yeah.
Personally, I also enjoy hiking, kayaking. Some weekends you can find my cousin and I and some friends at a winery. Just a nice charcuterie board and sipping some wine. During the winter, like right now, well, it's nicer right now, but past winter, I'll be inside doing puzzles, jigsaw puzzles and stuff like that.
So we all have a Southern Ohio heritage here, so we're all kind of kindred folk. Roger, I'll get back to you and ask some questions about the library and the library operations. What is your position with the library?
I serve as the director of the library.
Are you the boss of everybody that works there?
Yep.
And who is your boss?
I report to the board of trustees, which are 7. They're chosen from the local community. There's 7 of them, and they're appointed from the mayor of Jackson.
What kind of entity is the Jackson City Library? Is it a corporation, or is it like a governmental unit, or quasi-governmental, or how would you characterize that?
Quasi-governmental. It's basically its own entity. It's tax exempt, of course, and all that sort of things legally. But it's not affiliated with the city of Jackson or the county or anything like that. It's
Okay,
its own-
so
it's
your
its
line
own
of
thing.
authority goes to your board, it doesn't go
Just
to the
the-
mayor, for
Yep,
example?
just the board.
Even though the mayor is the appointing
appoints the-
authority?
Yeah, the mayor is the appointing authority, but
Okay.
no direct control.
So on a day-to-day basis, you get your policy direction from?
Yeah, and the board
the
basically
board.
just serve. They're just a policy-making board. They don't do any day-to-day activities or day-to-day oversight. It's just they've approved the policies, and that's my job to
Yeah. So for
run the
practical,
library within those guidelines.
sure. And for practical purposes, the library is separate from the city of Jackson?
Yes.
Even though there had that connection with the mayor there. Now, how many public libraries are there in Jackson County?
There are 3. We have one in Jackson, one in Oak Hill, and one in Wellston. And in Jackson County, they are all separate, standalone libraries. So they all have their own boards and all that good stuff.
Okay. Now, how many employees does the library have at this point?
We generally cycle through at least 10 and sometimes up to 12 during the summer. And then if something special is happening, we've had digital literacy trainers and things like that in the past. That was an additional staff position that we were able to get through different grants opportunities. But typically 10 people is what we need.
I have to ask the question, how many books do you have in the library?
April's the inventory guru, but I think around 30,000.
33. Yeah, I just did
33,000.
inventory.
33,000?
Okay.
Okay.
About 33,000.
I get the sense, though, from going into the library occasionally, that you guys have a lot more going on than just
Yeah.
giving out books and taking books back.
Oh, yeah.
The modern library has a whole range of services that it provides the community. We're going to go into some of those now. Let's concentrate for a moment on the main building, and we'll kind of mentally walk in the front door and look around. What kind of services do we find in the main library building, folks?
Well, all kinds of things. If you walk through the door, the first thing you'll notice is there's a cart full of COVID tests, which we have given those out since the mid 2020.
Free, obviously.
Yeah, totally free. It's a partnership with the Ohio Department of Health. They send us what we need every month, and we distribute those to whoever needs one, and we'll take it out to your car or whatever. If you're not feeling well, call and we'll bring it out. we've dropped them off to houses and different things over the years. But yeah, that's be the first thing. And so far, last I did the numbers, we gave the community a little over $500,000 worth of free COVID tests. So it's a significant impact to the community just on that, really.
Good.
So, so that's definitely a good partnership. But other than that, whenever you would come in, of course, you'd see all the books. You'd see our public access computers. We have 8 right now. We've had more in the past, but the way that everything changes with technology, a lot of people have their own devices now, so there's a little bit less need for the physical computer. People just come in because they need the internet.
But there's still
we
a
have
need,
Wi-Fi.
because like where I live, even though it's like 5 miles out of town, we cannot get internet, so we have to use our phones. So if my wife wants to do some kind of business on a computer, she has to come in and do it on the library's computer.
Yeah.
And I know, there are a lot of people that just do not have access to a computer, even though we've got these phones. And you can't do everything on your phone.
Yeah.
You can't do it. So that's a good thing that we have that.
Yeah, it's one of the main reasons why people come in on that note is to print things, because they need a label for an Amazon return, because there's, if you're only going to print something once a month, there's no need to buy a printer, even if you did have a computer.
Or a job app.
Yep, job applications. We do a lot of resumes, resume help. If somebody can't make their own or whatever, we have somebody on staff that you can make an appointment with, and he'll sit down with them and make their resume with them. And we of course have printing and copies, so you can get that right there. Typically, if you're doing a resume, we'll give you some for free to get started with. That way, you're not out anything. But otherwise, it's just a quarter anyway, so it's not going to break the bank. We don't turn people away either. So, and then of course the Wi-Fi. I think we have some numbers here. Yeah, last year altogether, 4,332 Wi-Fi logins, and 3,939 people who use one of our computers. There's 8, so they're cycling through and they're used quite a bit.
Here's the one I like. Every once in a while I go into the library and there's old Bob Urban, our historian for this town, 4 or 5 books to his credit, wonderful books. And he's on the machine to look at microfilm, whatever it is. Can you describe?
We have
resources?
on the local history resources. We have a smaller section, but it has quite a bit of good things. All newspapers from Jackson County, from like the earliest ones, are pretty well the beginning of Jackson. We have the Democrat and the Republican papers from 1860s. They are microfilmed, and we also have them digitized. So there's 2 different options for somebody that doesn't really like the microfilm. They can sit down at a regular computer, and we have a flash drive with all of them on there. And sometimes it's a little bit easier to grab what you're looking for that way too.
I'm just guessing here that Bob still uses the real.
I've seen when I go in there.
So when he says he goes to the original material in his book, he goes to the original material. It's right there. I myself have had occasion. I've been curious about a little bit of family history, so I go in there in 19th century, and the Martin family was in the dry goods business, and they had advertisements in there. It was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Good stuff like that.
Yep, and then there's family histories placed over there that like if you were to do your Martin family history and want to put it on the shelf in case there was somebody that maybe related to you that came in the future, it's right there to work with. So we keep all of those. We also have just a lot of odds and ends that have been donated to the library over the years. Like we have DT&I records of every train that left the DT&I station and who was driving it. So that's kind of cool. My grandpa worked for DT&I.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my grandpa worked for them, so it was really cool to flip through and see that he worked 3rd shift in 1968 on this train.
Wow.
It's really, really interesting.
We recently also had the donations, the Hazlitt Mansion. book donated to us about the restoration and renovation of it recently. So that's pretty cool to have on the shelf. People can go through that and see the process of it being restored.
Yeah, and we've been putting a lot of stuff. I was actually able to finagle some budget to hire somebody, and what he's been doing is just digitizing stuff. So we've been able to digitize a lot of the old yearbooks, Apple Festival, the yearly Apple Festival program, I guess is what it would be called, which is kind of cool because you can see all the advertisements, which is what I always like, and plus the past queens in court and all that stuff, and what the theme was, because we've had people call and ask what themes were over the years and stuff too, so that's easily done because of that. City directories, which are always handy for any kind of genealogy or to try to locate maybe where your family lived back in the 40s or 50s, something like that. What else do we have digitized?
Let's move on to the kids.
Okay.
I think you guys have a very active, very strong children's program. Could you describe that for us, please?
We do a lot. Typically, about every day, there's something going on. During the regular school year, basically we just focus on story times for the kids that aren't in school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They do a story is read to them, and then they do a craft activity. And then in the evenings, on Tuesday evenings, we do after hours, and it's typically Roblox is the big draw, but also Melissa usually has some sort of other activity for the kids that don't like that. There's Legos, maybe a craft or something.
Are these free of charge?
Oh yeah, everything's free. Yeah.
And what ages do you serve?
Basically birth to the end of life. I mean, anybody that comes
No, I
in.
was referring more to the children's services. But that's
Yeah, just any age. But also here recently, just in the last couple of years, we were able to shift some staff positions, and I was able to hire a teen librarian that just focuses on teen activities. So every day after school, whenever all the middle schoolers walk there, there's typically always something to do, some sort of whether it be like a role-playing game, they do like Dungeons and Dragons and that sort of thing. And then also he usually has some sort of a hands-on kind of STEM-related activity to where they get to build something and learn something. And I've been really proud of that, being able to offer that, really, because we kind of have a captive audience that are sitting there anyway, and it gives them
I
kind
guess
of
you're growing up in this town. I've heard it a million times. There's nothing to do here.
it keeps them off of the streets, and it keeps them
Yeah.
keeps them in a supervised, safe place, and they get to talk to each other, and they
Get us free snack. And,
there's always we always have snacks and food for any of our programs. So.
Going back to what you were saying, education is kind of a lifelong experience, what you were telling me. How do you kind of fulfill that for people that are older people too?
We just have mostly all through our different programs. As far as for the older people, or adults, when we age into that category, we have an adult librarian who does adult programs, and he has typically a weekly program of some sort. We usually try to focus half on arts and hands-on kind of stuff, and then the other half just kind of odds and end learning.
Every once in a while, I think you'll have a musical program.
Yep. We try to cycle on different music things. We've had folk music and different people that are on tour stop through. Hungry Town was pretty cool. They come through every once in a while.
All free of charge to the public.
All free.
Now,
And it gives a good way to, like with all programs, one of the main goals, or at least what I like most about them, is it just brings people together, because especially with the older people, we started a talk and tea time on Tuesday afternoons, and there's like 6 to 8 older ladies that are retired that come in and just chat and talk, and it gives people. It's a good way to facilitate people making friends and having someone to look after them and that sort of thing.
that's wonderful.
And we have a regular who, or some regulars who maybe lost their spouse and they join in, and it's just,
Yeah, because
have a
like
connection.
where like one day, if someone's not there, like, well, where's Mike? And you're like, well, I don't know. I'll try to get a hold of him. Like,
Yeah, you guys have some interesting speakers come in too. One of my favorite, most entertaining, was a guy that came in and talked about Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
And that was full of small
Oh, yeah.
children and
You get
adults.
the
And I think
huge-
the mistake the guy made was he wanted personal stories about Bigfoot. And you hear these people telling
Oh, yeah.
these stories.
Yeah, some
you know,
really
of like,
interesting
you
and-
know, I've got
Very
like
well
I've supposedly got like 6 of them that live out by me on the Pine Ridge in Lake Catherine, according
Yeah,
to these
they're-
people. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's get out of the building for a minute and get in. You guys have own a motor vehicle or two?
Yep.
Yeah, we have an outreach van. I can talk about that. We go into the schools for their after-school programs, the success programs. We take it into the nursing homes, the assisted living. We'll also do, if there's homebound patrons that just can't get out, we will, upon request, we'll deliver books to them. So yeah, and then anything else that we're invited to do in the community or go to, we'll gladly accept and get out there, make sure people know that the library's, I always like to say the library's mobile as well. So
One of the things that I participated in, they asked me to lead a hike, and I really I got permission to go out to Big Rock, and Big Rock's privately owned, so there was an opportunity to go out there. And you talk about education, you learned about the significance of Big Rock, especially to the African American community. It used to be a place where thousands of people would come in, and every year they would have some sort of a reunion there, And so that was a real opportunity because it's privately owned and you have to rent a cabin, but the guy graciously let everybody on that hike go up there on top of Big Rock, and I thought, well, that's the only chance
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get up there. So that was a really good
Yeah,
experience.
and on that
Yeah.
too, we that same year we did the hiking series. We did a hike at Leo Petroglyph, and it was led by Jim Meacham. He's the caretaker or whatever there, and he's a geologist. I had no clue about that. So our hike, he told us all about different rock formations and all kinds of different things. So yeah, there was a really unique educational opportunity there that no one else ever gets. Because
Now, if I walked into the library and I said, I'm out of work right now, do you guys have anything that would help me find some job opportunities that I can look up and
we
pursue?
do. One of the big things that we can do is help you develop technology skills, which, any kind of, no matter where you're going to go work now, you're going to have technology skills. So we have access to an online learning module that you can either do on your own, or you can come set up an appointment with one of our employees, and he'll sit there with you and walk you through the steps.
So it's computer teaching,
Mhm.
free of
Yep.
charge,
Yep, totally free.
that will help you get a job.
Yep. And then we'll do resume help, print those, of course. And then obviously everybody has access to the Ohio Means Jobs and that sort of thing. So we've kind of just point people in that direction as far as looking up jobs. But the big thing really for all of that is just the idea that there are computers there to fill out your job applications, because everything is online now. Very few people actually want a paper application or resume given to them.
I see. Well, do you have any metrics for your usage? I know you've tossed out a few numbers for us.
Well, last year, I think one of the biggest things is that our front door has a door counter on it, and 41,000 people walked through that door last year. So,
This is a good thing.
yeah, and that doesn't count the people that just came in for meetings through the meeting room door. Like, that's just
Right.
people that went through the front door.
front doors.
So, so that was great. Our circulation, we circulated about 75,000 items last year. One of the big things, which April is in charge of as far as maintaining them and making all the calls and getting them back and all that sort of thing, is our Wi-Fi hotspots that we check out. We have, last year, 1,627 of them circulated. So
You
get
guys
them for
even
2
have
weeks.
fishing equipment and camping
Yep,
equipment, hiking
we have
that you can check out.
nature
too.
backpacks. We have stargazing kits. There's a water testing kits there. um, butterfly nets, fishing
Yeah,
poles,
we've got badminton set,
outdoor,
pickleball.
outdoor.
We call it the Beyond
games.
Books collection. So not your typical thing that you would think of when you walk into a library, but we circulate it nonetheless.
And then we have
I see that our producer is writing on her little slate
Uh-oh.
over there, so I'm going to move us along a little bit here. I want to get into some of the material that you brought me,
okay.
Roger, and that you wanted to get to today, okay?
Yeah.
I'll just start you off. How are libraries funded in the state of Ohio?
Ohio has one of the best library systems in the nation, and the reason why is because they get state funding, which is given to each county, and then the county distributes it to the libraries in the county. So being that we're part of, there's 3 separate ones in Jackson County, so there's a formula that is agreed upon by all 3 of the libraries and the commissioners and the auditor and that sort of thing, to distribute that money based on various things.
And surprise, surprise, they call that the Public Library Fund?
Yes, it's the Public Library Fund. It is a total separate line item on the state's budget. But yeah, it's
Well, what are some of the challenges in this funding model that you see?
the biggest challenge is that the numbers can change, and also that it's only the state budget's only a 2-year budget. So you have to be vigilant in what you do, because you could do something today, but that might not be the same next year or whatever. So you really have to be vigilant on things like that. And then obviously that's one of those things that's always at the whim of the current political climate, what they want to support, and that kind of
Indeed
stuff.
they are, yes. How's the Public Library Fund distributed to each library, Roger?
The state has its own formula that they use to divvy out that money, which is just based on population of each county. So, but before it gets to that point, they take a chunk of it to pay. There's an organization called OPLIN, which is the Ohio Public Library Information Network, and they provide our internet to every library building in Ohio, free of charge to us. So we have the best internet that you could possibly have, and it's just given to us. And then also they use a chunk of money goes to the state library, which they use to do different services for public libraries. Like if I wanted to have a consultant do a strategic plan or something like that, they have
So you
resources
have-
available.
You have service support up the line.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Are there additional ways that libraries can receive funding besides what you've talked about?
Yeah, most libraries have a local levy. We're allowed, by Ohio Revised Code to run our own levies. But Jackson County has not done so.
So you are not levy supported?
No.
All right. And I suppose you can receive federal and local grants?
Yeah, we do a lot of the services that we do. The Public Library Fund gives us enough money to pay our employees and keep the electric on, basically, and maintain our building, which luckily is paid for and was taken care of a long time ago, and they made good choices whenever they did that. So it's, it's an easy building to maintain.
Yeah,
so that's
bring
always
the
been
name
great.
of Phyllis Hanley.
Yes,
to
Phyllis
mind.
Hanley. That's
I
why the
remember,
library is there.
Yes,
And
Phyllis was the assistant recorder for decades in Jackson County. I remember when I first came here, I'd be doing those title examinations, and as long as Phyllis Hanley was putting the records into the books, they were sound, they were good. I could rely on them.
Yeah.
And when it came time to get a new library up, she's the one that went to every business, every family in Jackson and said, let's do a new building. And when they took the old Schaefer grocery, is that it?
Yep.
And remodeled that into the library that we have today. And I want to give a shout out to Phyllis Hanley, a wonderful woman.
Mhm. And this year will be our 50th anniversary in that building, October 19th.
Okay. And do you think there'll be any federal cuts coming down the line, or have you heard, or is not sure, or what?
Still kind of unsure. It'll be detrimental if so, because like I was saying with our internet being provided, state library, the half of that is paid for from this public library fund allotment, and the other half is a reimbursement from the federal government through their E-rate program that they do, which is through the FCC.
So there are some federal funds that filter down
Yeah.
through the state.
So if that gets cut, then they will not be able to provide the internet to each place, which I would just estimate like what we actually have. I mean, you're probably looking at $1,000 a month that we'd have to start paying.
But you're gonna have to make some decisions about these other services you provide, these extra things
Yeah,
also
a lot of
that
the-
the community benefits from.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff that we do or anything extra, typically for Jackson is, like say the public library fund takes care of the basics, but anything else that we want to do as far as programs, the idea that we have that van, it was federally funded through a grant. Anything extra, we solicit grants and local donations and that sort of thing.
And
which-
people are gonna lose out on opportunities that they have now, and they might not realize it, but some of the things they've grown used to having from the
Yeah.
library may have to be cut.
Because that makes a big, all of the outreach, that's really been a great thing. Because a lot of the people that benefit from that, that's all they have. I mean, if you're in a nursing home, you don't have family that visits you. I mean, what else do you have really? So, I mean, it's somebody that comes and, it's more than just the books or more than just the service.
Yes.
It's just that personal connection that you get.
So
they
the-
count on us. They know exactly what time we're going to be there, what day, and they're staying there waiting.
So what we're talking about is that the library has a complex structure, and they are able to make a substantial social and educational
Oh, yeah.
impact on the community. And it's funded through lots of sources, local, state, and a little bit from the Fed. And if the Fed is cut off, and we don't, that's just not certain right now, then that could cause some
Yeah.
problems. Roger, April, is there anything else on your mind? We're about running to the end here.
I would just like to thank the community because we do a lot of collaboration with different organizations and businesses to be able to bring some of the extra.
Yeah,
programs
we have
and
some-
the sidewalk market things, and we're always working with someone in our community, and we're proud of that.
Yeah, we could not do nearly. I mean, we wouldn't be anything really without all of the support from the other organizations in the county. The Ohio State University Extension, they're wonderful to work with. Any kind of program or anything that they can do, they're always more than willing to come. And they say it's free on our end, and you get that science expertise and different stuff that we just don't necessarily have on staff. But yeah, that's.
I think it's
It's
fair to
definitely
say
a
that the public appreciates the library system.
It'd be a great loss if you couldn't provide a lot of those services.
Yeah, because it's one of the things. The reason why I love libraries is, throughout my life, I've not always been a library user, but it's always been there when I needed it. Whenever I was going to high school, it was there. It took a little gap because I didn't really need anything and then when I went back to college, it was there. Whenever I went through some different personal things, I needed some help for different things, it was there. It's just one of those things you might not always need it, but it's just nice to know that it's going to be there whenever you do need it.
Absolutely.
And there's something for everyone when you walk through those doors. And
Well, the last question that they've kind of asked me to ask is, do you have any requests of the viewers out there that may be watching this podcast? What would you like them to do? I think in general, we'd like them to support the library
Attend programs,
situation.
yeah.
Attend programs, come in, use the library. It's there. It's free of charge. It's for the public.
Yeah, and I think
Roger reports our stats and everything. So
one of my asks to the community, if you do use the library or if you have in the past, would be to share those stories. Write them down, send us an email, bring them in, because those are always helpful to have personal stories of how the library has impacted your life or helped you do something. That way, whenever we are trying to get grants or maybe talk to the politicians and different things about funding, you have actual stories to back up what we're saying. Because if you don't see it, you don't really, it's kind of one of those things you might not believe it. So.
And in terms of funding security, if our viewers wish to communicate with legislators, say Jackson's got a good library system. I think we ought to continue it, and if it takes some particular attention to make sure the funding isn't cut and is
Yeah, and
hopefully
that's-
enhanced.
That's
please-
easily, yeah, with technology, that's easily done now. All you have to do is Google your House of Representative and fill out a form, and it goes directly to them, and they do follow up, and they'll send you a message back and get a hold of you. Like everything is read by someone. So.
I've got a little piece of script here they've asked me to read. If you have any questions about our podcast or have any ideas about topics you would like to see, please email us at altogether Think for Yourself Clubhouse, jammed together in one word, at gmail.com. Repeating, that's Think for Yourself Clubhouse at gmail.com. Or comment on your YouTube channel. We'd like you to watch us through YouTube, and if you have comments, put them in the channel. If you're willing to contact your state representatives, senators, or congressmen, email us for their contact information. We can also provide you a form letter to use upon request when you email us. Of course, what we're trying to do is explain to local folks what local services are available. Educational services, library services, and I hope perhaps to come municipal services, so that folks will understand really what their tax dollars are paying for. I'm not sure if folks understand that. So that's part of what we're trying to do here, and we hope to continue that. Any last words, Dennis?
No, I'm just glad you guys came in. Thank you
Yeah,
for coming in.
thanks for having us.
Having us,
It's
yeah,
always,
absolutely.
the time went by really fast.
I
I could talk
al-
about
Yeah, let's talk about
libraries for
libraries.
Yeah,
I could talk
I
about libraries
always
for
learn.
days.
I always learn something,
And then
I
after-
certainly learn things from you.
And then after every conversation, it's like, oh, I should have said blah blah blah, because there's just so much.
Of course, we come back and we
so
say,
much
well,
to
you should have
cover.
said this, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that'll do it for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.